do the little dance.
I'm gonna use this as like the outtake stuff.
When I come in so fast like that, people wonder if you're gonna hit the wall.
Hey, what's going on? It's me, Tony Jacobsen. Welcome to O.I. Life. This is all about spotlighting and celebrating Osteogenesis Imperfecta lifestyle. And in today's video, I actually get to spotlight one of our fellow O.I.ers. I had a chance to spend some time with the one and only Monica Gartner. She is an author, she is a speaker, and she has a secret job that we're not supposed to talk about, but we will get into that a little more in the interview. So sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Monica Gartner.
Hey, what's going on, Monica? Thank you so much for joining us here on the O.I. Life channel. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so excited to have you in the O.I. Life spotlight because it's been a while that we've actually been communicating back and forth with each other, but we've never officially met.
Yeah.
And it's so great
It's
to
great.
actually meet this way. And thank you so much.
You're most welcome. It's a pleasure. I've been wanting to do it for such a long time.
Yes. And now is your time. Now is our time down here. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to have you run through what I love to call the Fabulous Four. Okay.
Right.
So the Fabulous Four, when it comes to OI, is what type of OI do you have?
Mm-hmm.
How many breaks have you had or fractures?
Mm-hmm.
How many surgeries have you had? And then the last thing is, if you do have any hardware in your body, what hardware do you have? So go ahead and tell us your Fabulous Four.
Yes, okay. And see if I have Alzheimer's or not, if I can remember them all. Okay, so first of all, I have type 3 OI. And secondly, I have fractured over 500 bones. And the majority of them were between the age of, birth as up to age 12 or 13. So that's the second one. How many surgeries I've had? I'm not 100% sure, but over a dozen anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, and there were times I just didn't want the surgery. Actually, when I was a teenager, I just said no more after that. And then the final question is hardware. And yes, I have hardware. I have stainless steel IM rodding in some of my limbs, as well as a mini plate with screws.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
The good old plate.
The good old mini plate.
I don't have any
Yes.
plates. I do have the rods, though, but no plates.
No plates. And one arm has 11 screws, and the other one has 9 screws.
Wow. Is it like the entire bone? Like, where is the plate?
In my humerus.
Okay. So does it run like the whole thing?
No, that's the radius. But no, it's up here. Not
Yeah. Let's get that right first. So yeah, does it run the whole thing?
Yeah, so it's not actually all the way down to my elbow. But it encompasses the majority of the humerus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. That's a pretty strong Fabulous Four right there.
Yeah, it is. I thought so.
500 fractures. I think maybe you might be top of all the interviews that I've done. That might be the top right now. I don't know. I got to go back on the show notes and see.
Well, it's over 500. I mean, we don't really know exactly how
you
many.
You lose count at a certain point.
You lose count.
Yeah.
See, when I was a kid, I would crack a rib every 3 to 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I broke a long bone, the rib wouldn't crack or break. It's kind of
right.
weird. So, I was a bit of a crack up.
As you are now.
As I am
always
now,
cracking us up. So we met initially through social media. I think it was Facebook, good old Facebook, many years ago. And I know that you you were writing a book, and you sent me a copy of your book, and I really appreciate that. So I want to talk to you about that.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, let's see the book. Tell us about the title of the book first.
Okay, so the book is called Overcoming the Impossible, A Life of Trials and Triumphs. And ta-da! This is the cover of my book.
There it is. Love
There it
it.
is.
Yeah,
There it, yeah. So,
that's awesome.
yes, thank you. And I went to a studio, and I decided, as if you noticed in the picture, I'm not sitting in my wheelchair. I'm sitting in a chair that is appropriate size for me
Mm-hmm.
in front of the wheelchair. And my wheelchair is in the back. And it's a little bit faded, sort of, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is because I wanted people to know the chair is a part of me, but it's not all of me. It's a part of who I am, but it's not all of me.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love it. I love the message of just the cover, and that's,
Mm-hmm.
I felt the same too as I was putting together the cover of my book as well. There's a lot just in the covers of books and in that first initial picture that we can show and
Mm-hmm.
intrigue people as to what they're going to read about in the book. So I think that was a perfect example of, a perfect representation, how you did that on the cover. Great job on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now tell me,
And thank you for your book, too, by the way. Thank you for your book.
yes, you're so welcome. It's so exciting. Now,
I know.
I want to hear a little bit about just the process. Just give us a synopsis of the process of writing the book, because I think it's important, and I try and express this to my fellow O.I.ers, to other people with disabilities. I'm like, look, we all need to write a book, because the
Yeah.
more we can get the message out, the more we can educate people and
Yeah.
share our stories. It's super important. So, can you talk a little bit about the process that you went through when you
Okay.
were writing the book?
Yeah, absolutely. So what basically happened is I thought I wasn't sure about writing a book, but my father actually is the person who convinced me to write a book. And everywhere I went before I started, I was taking notes. But people kept saying to me, "Oh, have you ever thought of writing a book?" And it was like, it was so random. And I thought, okay, maybe the big guy upstairs is trying to tell me something.
Right, right.
So I decided to write this book. And I went to visit a former colleague in his office. Yeah, we were working in the same company, and then he left and went out on his own. And we were talking. I was talking to him about writing a book, but I was saying, not exactly sure how to get it started. Like, where do I start with my life? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, obviously the beginning, but what do I do? And then he said to me something that was very, very helpful. He said, write a table of contents
Mm-hmm.
and then fill in the blanks. And I
Yes,
thought,
yes. I know, right?
oh.
That's when the light
So
bulb goes off. Yeah, I did the
that's when the
same.
light bulb went on.
Uh-huh.
So that's what I did. And I took notes from my parents. I asked them some questions. And unfortunately, my father passed away before the book was published. But my mom was there for when I had the book published. And she came to my book launch party.
Once you got the book done and it was launched and out there, I know you did some speaking engagements to also
Well,
support the book, right?
yeah, that's the hardest part is keeping the momentum up. And because once your family and friends bought the book, then you got to go to strangers, and that's a harder sell. And so you've really got to hustle, and it was, I tell you, it was meant to be, because I walked by or wheeled by a bookstore in one of our downtown Vancouver. And there was this lovely lady, two ladies sitting by a table, and they were selling their book. She had a disability as well. And the young girl, had written a fantasy book, adventure fantasy book for young people. And the mother had written a book about having her daughter. And I said, hey, I wrote a book, but how do I get into bookstores? Like, who did you have to talk to? Oh, you just call up the coordinator, and almost every bookstore has someone, and they're most willing to get local writers in to sell their books. I'm like, oh, who knew? So that's what I did. I would call them up and we set dates up where I could come, and it was usually either after work or on the weekends. You have to be strategic about book signings. Is there any major events happening that would conflict?
Mm-hmm.
Because you want people to be walking up and down the streets and going to the store. If there's a major event, like in Vancouver, they're insane about hockey, let's just say. If
Mm-hmm.
there's a hockey playoff, it's not going to be a good idea to have a book signing when hockey season is on,
Right,
or
right,
when your hometown is playing.
right.
So anyway, so that's what I had to do, and then also I have a connection with some churches, so I would call up their activities person, and I said, "Hey, can I come on and have a little talk and blah blah blah?"
Yeah, no, that's great.
And
Yeah.
I happened to talk. Well, actually, he approached me. I don't know if it's in your country. I think so. Brooks Brothers.
Um,
It's a clothing store.
I
It's a high-end clothing store.
I think so.
Yeah, and I happened to go in there a few times because I just happened to find out they sell kids' clothing.
Oh,
And even though I'm not a child, of course, being a little over 3 feet tall, it's hard to get certain really nice sweaters and blouses and things like that in my size. Because I don't like wearing T-shirts to, to work when I work in an office, depending on what it is, right?
yeah.
I don't need Dora across my chest. So anyway, so anyway, I went into the store and I developed a rapport, and I met the regional manager, and I was chatting to him about my life, and I wrote a book, blah blah blah, and then he said to me, "Hey, would you mind coming and saying a little speech to some college students that are coming? I let them come in the store and I teach them how to do a tie and how to fit into a professional suit and all that sort of thing."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was the business department, and I'm like, "Oh, okay. How long do you want me?" And I usually charge for speaking events
Yes, yes.
because the money is not in the books. The
Right.
money is in speaking.
Yeah, now hold
And
on. Before you go any further, I really want to stress that because a
mhm,
lot of people hit me up too about that. And they ask about my book and the sales of the books and whatnot. And so here's another person, everybody. Listen, the book sales, there you're going to sell books, but to really, have something financially stable and worth, supporting the continuation of writing and the career, it's got to be something beyond the book. So as you can see, Monica went through the same thing where it's like, well, what are the things that you can do ancillary outside the book? So speaking is like the number one thing as soon as you get a book.
actually, that is my goal. I've always wanted to do speaking events, but who's going to hire you unless you have something to say? You need to be credible for whatever you're going to talk about.
Right.
And the book publishing gives you validity and says, yes, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it
So,
gives you that little bit, shows that you're an expert in that topic.
yeah, yeah, you're a subject matter expert.
Yep.
And so that part still needs work. But the main thing was to get my book out there, first of all. And so that's basically what I did.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's,
amazing. Yeah, it's great because you were able to use, again, a lot of what you already know and put it into the marketing for the book. I do the same as far as video production. I do video production, so you'll see tons of videos around my book and things of
Yeah.
that nature. So it's like, yeah, we got to be able to use the things that we already know. And then in
Yeah.
this new creative venture, how can you apply those things to that new thing? So,
Yeah.
yeah, you've done a great job at it. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, to make a long story short, with the clothing company, I got in there. He said he didn't have a speaking budget, and I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, okay. Well, you don't need me for very long, so I thought, I'll let that one slide. But then he came back and said, what if I gave you merchandise credit? And I'm like, oh,
Right.
because I really like this particular sweater that he had. But cost a slight fortune. Anyway, so, because it was really nice. Anyway, and he said, I'll give you $150 credit.
Yes.
And I said, okay.
Yeah.
For 15 minutes of speaking, no problem.
Yep. That's a win right there.
That's a win right there. And so I went there, I did my speech. He was so moved by the speech, he upped it another $100.
We're going to go ahead and clap that out right now. Yes.
So, I didn't sell any books that day.
Yeah.
And I gave him a copy of the book because sometimes for promotion, you need to give away some books. And that I write off as advertising.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's what it's about. It's about trying to find those added lines of income, those added streams of income that you can use from the book. I've also done online courses. I now have an online fitness platform. So a lot of
Yeah.
things are driven from the book. I mean, it's like people will initially find you maybe through the book, and then they find these higher priced items, these higher price points. So,
Yes.
and those are the things that really, it's crazy because the book, and I'm sure you can attest to this, it takes a lot. I mean, it was many, many hours and it was a lot of hard work. So, that payoff that you get from the actual money from the book, sometimes it doesn't equate to the work that you put into it. But yeah, it goes beyond
This
that.
book, I'm just going to tell you, this book took me 10 years.
Wow.
Or
Yes.
7 years. I'm sorry. Over 7 years. You could actually say 10 years.
Yeah.
It took that long time to do this book.
Yeah.
245 pages.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and some people will ask for advice, and they really want to be flippant about it. They want a shortcut. There is no shortcut.
Nope.
If you do
Yeah.
a half-ass job, that's what you're going to get in return.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's great that you've been able to do it. There's a lot of other people that should write books. They have great stories.
Absolutely.
Fellow O.I.ers, people that have osteogenesis imperfecta just like us. So, if you're watching this, I'm sure you may have OI. Please write your story. Please listen to what we're talking about as far as getting that story together. And gosh, we should just do a whole video series based on that alone.
We could.
Yeah. So I definitely want to talk to you about what you've got going on now. So I know you do have a job with your federal government. Is that correct? Can you talk about that? Are you allowed? Are you on? What's your security clearance?
I can't tell you what department I'm working for.
This is getting really good.
Yeah. Because we were advised not to.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure.
That's why I don't have it online. But I will say that I do work for the federal government in the human resources section in a particular department. And I'm an assistant, and I set up temporary jobs for people when the managers come to our department or email us and request it.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's more than enough information. Please don't say any more because we want to protect you.
Yeah.
So And then in addition to that, with everything that you've got going on with the book, that you're still out there promoting and marketing and sharing your story, I know
Hmm.
you are working on a new kind of video blog series vlog. Like tell me more about that and what your plan is with that, because I know that it's really all
Okay,
about sharing.
right.
Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Well, what my goal is to show people, the world, hopefully, that people with disabilities can live an incredibly uh, full, adventurous life. And just because you have a disability does not have to be a downer. Yes, we have pain and we suffer, but everybody else has the same thing. I mean, they don't all have osteogenesis imperfecta, but maybe they have something else: spinal bifida, cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, lupus, Fragile syndrome, attention deficit disorder. I mean, the list goes on. And cancer survivors or people struggling in that department. We all have something, whether it's physical, emotional, psychological. There isn't one human being on this planet that doesn't suffer from something. But for some reason, society thinks that we should be pitied, manipulated, taken advantage of, etc. And many are. And I have recently witnessed things in our country, my country, and your country. And I realize that unless we start to stand up and be accounted and seriously say, no, we don't want this kind of behavior or treatment anymore, it's going to go on. I thank God for the Black Lives Matter movement.
Mm-hmm.
I thank God for the Me Too movement. And the injustices that have been happening are finally being revealed for the Indigenous people in
Yes.
Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not forget that even Vancouver had what do you call it, concentration camp for Japanese people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there have been atrocities in both of our countries. And we need to stop pointing our finger as a country to other countries. And we need to see and look at ourselves and say, how are we behaving? And how are we behaving to the most fragile people of our citizens? Are we upholding them and treating them with respect and dignity, or are we not?
Yes.
And so, how do we change that narrative? And so my purpose is to change the narrative of how people are seen with disabilities.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is perfect. It's the perfect time for it. I think more of us need to, again, like do this, share our stories, make
Yeah.
videos, get out and talk to people. I think it's very important too, and I want to get your take on this. How do you feel about just within the disabled community in general? I've been finding that there's a lot of division just within our community. And it's like, I feel more if we uplift each other, then we can actually get more done faster. What are your thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
I would agree. There is some division, and I'm not sure why, other than maybe some people have been feeling more disadvantaged than other people, um, and and that is unfortunate. Sometimes it's the way in which we were brought up, or sometimes it's the community, the society around us. I don't know what causes this division. When I was younger, I was told that there is a hierarchy in disabilities. And while I haven't heard of that lately, I sometimes see it. And the hierarchy being, if you were a person who was able to walk at one point, and then you're seen, and you're now disabled, you're seen a little bit higher up on the totem pole
Hmm.
than someone who was born with a disability.
Wow.
And I reject that,
Yeah.
clearly. I think we're all on the same playing field as the human race. It's just, very frustrating that happens in our community, and it does. But I think the only way to combat the division is try to find some common ground.
Yeah, yeah.
Like what's happening in the rest of the society with the Black Lives Matter, the women's movement, indigenous people, Asian people, um, South Asian people as well. And the commonality is that we're not white. We're not all privileged white men and women.
Right, right.
And I think society is quite used to the narrative from that angle. And now they are being tested and pushed and saying, well, no, we reject this. We're not going to march to the same drum like you are. We have our own drum. And I feel that people with disabilities, well, we are all the colors of the rainbow, just like anybody else. We come in different colors. We come in different shapes, sizes.
Exactly. Yeah.
And some different sexual orientation as well.
Well, there's everything. Yeah, we're the biggest.
Everything.
Yeah, we're the biggest minority there is.
We're the biggest minority, and they hear us the least.
Right.
We are 15+% of the population. That's huge. That's a huge percent.
Yeah.
I mean, we're, huge. I don't know what the population for indigenous people is, but I know it's not 15%. And I get it. And I'm glad that they're on center stage right now. But if we want to change our narrative, we need to get loud.
Yeah, and I think we do need to band together. And yeah, I love your I love your thoughts on that, and I think it's important. And I really stress the coming together type thing just within our own community, because it is tough when you do have a disability. Like for me, for sure, I have an invisible disability. I'm too disabled for some people and not disabled enough for others, and so I personally struggle with that just within the community, and it makes me frustrated because then I'm like, well, how can I even help on either side? So I think it is,
Yeah, just to interject, sorry, but I felt that way too when I was younger, and that's because I mostly stuck with able-bodied people when I was younger. I wanted to get rid of, I'm not disabled. I'm not disabled. I'm fairly capable. I'm in my wheelchair. I can go around. I do all sorts of things, just like my peers do. But that's because I had parents that encouraged me to, and I just went out and I just didn't take no for an answer. I didn't want to be the person stuck at home all the time. And even though there were times I was, but when I'm recovering from yet another broken bone, but still, I wanted to be out there. I wanted to be visible. I wanted to be seen. And then when I grew up, and I realized, hey, Monica, why don't you have any friends with disabilities? Why are you discriminating? Why are you being biased? And I'm like, oh, yeah, why am I doing that? And I met people, and I'm like, there's nothing different with them. They're just like me. As a matter of fact, some of them have more in common with me than my able-bodied friends.
Right, right.
And they actually understand. We're much more patient with each other. We're much more understanding and forgiving, usually, with each other than any other part of society, other than our nucleus family. But, so, why are we like that? I think it's because we have all our life have had this negative narrative. Oh, you poor thing. Can I give you $20? Go buy yourself something nice.
Wait a minute. People would offer you money? I never got offered money. What's happening?
Well, I'm adorable. So, yeah, I was offered occasionally money. And, when I was younger, somebody wanted to give me money, fine, but now I find it offensive.
Yeah, but I mean, just getting back to what you were talking about, it really is, yeah, that negative. So basically, when we are kind of born into this, and then it's this kind of negative play that like having the disability is a negative thing. And so as we're growing up, we try our best to not live in the negative part of it because we're like, well,
Yeah.
we're not disabled. I went through the same exact thing. And so we just kind of go through that whole spell of trying to deny what's going on, still living with everything that it gives you, all the consequences. So I definitely feel, and did you go through the same thing where you finally embraced it and you were like, hey, you
Yeah.
know what? I am who I am.
I
Having
am who I
OI is
am.
all part of it. Talk a little bit about how you transitioned through that.
Well, I just realized that I met some people and started chatting them up, and I just realized I have a lot in common with the person, and I think it especially helped that I found people who had the same energy level that I have, and they were intelligent and could hold a conversation, and not to say that everybody is like that, but I think because they were educated, intelligent, communicative, and they were working. Because many times people with disabilities are not working. I'm a minority with my type of disability. Many people call it a profound disability, and that I'm working full time. And some people find that amazing. And I've heard some people with disabilities say, oh, well, it's hard to work. It's hard to get up in the morning. Yeah, you don't think people who are able bodied don't find it hard to get up in the morning and work?
Right,
Of course they
exactly.
do.
Yeah.
But you see, we put everything on our disability and saying, oh, well, I can't do that because I'm disabled. We limit ourselves sometimes. People with disabilities actually play a vital role in society as well. We supply people a job through home care
Mm-hmm.
because if we weren't here, would that maybe the person would have a job, maybe they wouldn't. Because of us, there are wheelchair companies. Because of us, there are all these different um, um, specialties that have sprung up to
Yeah.
help people with disabilities.
Yeah, we
So,
are the customers to, I don't know how big of a percentage of the medical industry, right?
exactly. So, we need to flog that narrative.
Yeah.
We need to flog the narrative that we are a part of society and we have meaning and we need to be here just like the rest of society.
Well, I love it, Monica. This is amazing. This has been outstanding. I am so happy I've been able to chat with you and get you here on the OI Life channel. This channel is all about, sharing the awareness, the acceptance, and the awesomeness that is OI. And you are a
Yeah.
prime example of how awesome OI can be and how we can thrive even with OI. So I really appreciate you being here. Let's go ahead and do two things. First of all, where should people connect with you?
Well, you could go onto my website, monicagartner.ca, and if you want to connect with me, there is a form. If you want to buy the book, for example, or if you want to just connect, and then I will have a communication with you through that way. Or the alternative way, if you don't want to know what's going on with my future endeavors in that department, you can also just tag me on Facebook and send me a private message and say that you saw me through the O.I. network channel, and we can connect that way. You can like send me a private PM message. So
Yes.
yeah, there's different ways you can find me.
And I will definitely have links for all this in the show notes, in the description of the show here. So
Thank
everybody
you.
that's watching, you can get them here. So I'm going to just put it to you one more time. And, this is specifically for our OI community and other people that are learning about osteogenesis imperfecta. So what are some
Mhm.
final thoughts that you have for our viewers?
I think my final thoughts would be that not to give up. Never give up on the dreams and aspirations you have. It might be challenging in the beginning. I mean, it might be, it will be, it is challenging. But remember to eat healthy and do some form of exercise. And even though it's challenging, just a little bit every day or every other day, maybe work on your arms first and then your legs. Just a little movement. Doesn't have to be grandiose. And, and then your muscles will get used to that. And your muscles will be like an internal cast. And it'll help protect your bones. And I also take nutritional supplements. I don't know. You might want to talk to your doctor about that. But that's what I do. I try to live as healthy as a lifestyle as possible.
That's awesome. That is perfect. You know, I'm all about that. So I appreciate you talking about that and giving that advice, especially from someone who has type 3. So, fellow type 3ers out there that are watching this, you see, Monica has the same advice. Get some movement in, eat right, really think about your health, put it first, and you'll see great successes come from that. So thank you so much again, Monica, for being here today. And
You're most welcome.
I can't wait to speak with you again.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure being on your show.
I hope you enjoyed this OI Life Spotlight. For more information and to get connected and for all the links, make sure you check the show notes. Now it's time to hit that like button, share this video with somebody, and make sure you subscribe and hit that little bell icon so that you'll get notified every single time a new video is released. If you want to see more Osteogenesis Imperfecta related content, there's videos right over there for you to watch. Oh, and that one down there is being suggested specifically for you, so make sure you check that one out. All right, until next time, get out there, keep breaking barriers, not bones. Peace.